Good evening, you Arabs and Jews. It is sad times to be hearing what's happening to the motherland, Lebanon. I've spoke about the IT sector in numerous podcasts, and I've went into details about my findings as a former Hewlett Packard staff, and I've given advice on not just to Lebanon, although I've emphasized it to Lebanon, warning them of how the IT sector is impacting the world globally. Business, the corporate businesses, the small businesses, and I use that with a tone because the small business are the foundation of every country. They're the foundation of every business infrastructure, and the IT infrastructure plays a massive role. That massive role was triggered off by Maggie Thatcher when she was about to leave office, I think, or during her time in office, where she asked for I don't know how to say this, like a Bible for, it wasn't her words, but it was like a Bible for the IT sector in a business format, how the IT sector is going to impact businesses across the world, and therefore she issued a information technology infrastructure library, ITIL, which I am trained in myself, and it is a passport to getting into the IT world. Of course you do. Not very hard at all. And so, how does the IT sector impact businesses? Everything you do on the net, I don't care, whatever it is, it goes through Cisco systems. I was in charge of a contract that I was managing for Cisco. Yep. One of the most complex companies in terms of not only in its sector or in its even segment in the IT sector, but in terms of their logistics, their distribution. I'm a former transport manager, and I could tell you now, I have never ever seen or witnessed until today the stringent, tight rules, the complex rules of delivering Cisco computers. Now, Cisco items, Cisco parts. Now, I've worked with Cisco engineers, I've worked with Dell engineers, I've worked with Hewlett Packard engineers, IBM. You name them, I've worked with them. You name them, I've dealt with them. You name them, I've distributed it, and I've managed it, and I've rolled it out from beginning to end. From the moment I'm trained from the moment you pick up a phone to want to buy a computer or anything IT, to all the intricacies and anomalies that get involved in it, right up until the logistics and the delivery, and even after the after services. So part of my job was to help tender for contracts. And when we were tendering for contracts, I had a lot of input on that side of it. But you come to learn some information And even Cisco systems make you sign a 10-year disclaimer, which I'm no longer in anyway, to know about the secrecy of their IT and their parts. Now, since all of it is probably out of date now and there's new terms and regulations for them, I want to go back and touch on some of the subjects that I brought up that impact Lebanon. During the credit crunch, where I was made redundant, I was in Canary Wharf, based in Canary Wharf, in an American stockbroker and financial advisor organization. In there, we learn how the banks were going down and the bad news that we were hearing about all sorts of banks, including Bank of New York, Bank of America, Bank of New York specifically. One of them was, everybody was saying it's going to go down. Everyone was saying it. Didn't happen. The back doors of the Intel microchip is where, and it might sound like I'm repeating myself here, but I'm not, is where is another microchip inside the Intel microchip. And in there is a backdoor for access to any rogue organizations such as the number 3, I think, or the number 4, I can't remember what it was, or up there, Israel being right up there in the IT sector in the world's technologies. So they've stole all the Silicon Valley companies, all the big heads, all the creme de la creme, and took it over to Israel, ripped off the taxpayer in America. Now they've got the best technologies. And so when the credit crunch happened, companies were being made, making redundancies left, right and centre. The financial city of the world was England, was no longer England after the credit crunch. Shortly after that was taken over. And where we need to be aware of, and this I address not just to Lebanon, I think it should be addressed to every Muslim, quite frankly, in all honesty, because we are living in a sectarian world. And this sectarian world that we're here for is something which needs us to require to apply different measures. What sort of measures? You have to go back to the very basics. You have to start hiring filing clerks, physical filing clerks. Do you understand? You have to buy filing cabinets and do it manually. You have to retrieve information manually in the systems that you used to use. You have to disconnect your electronic devices from any form of internet, any domain, any Bluetooth, any Wi-Fi, any frequency sounded device. And those frequencies also include frequencies that we don't, the human ear doesn't hear. So you have to go back to basics, and you have to get rid of the computers. Your computers need to be adjusted in such a way where it is no longer able to transmit information out, or in for that matter. Now, in Iran, I can see where the leaders have been grassed up. They've been grassed up by their own stupidness, their own stupid Iranian leaders, whoever they may be. I don't care, I talk raw talk here. I'm not here trained to be talking geopolitics, but I speak from a personal capacity, which makes my voice better than those who are journalists, and are agent hangouts and so on. So my voice is more sufficient, more appropriate than their voice, because I speak from a personal capacity. I'm not on a payroll. Once you speak and you're on a payroll, that wage packet can be taken from under your feet. And I will be criticised without a shadow of a doubt about journalists, even the anti-Zionist journalists, but you know, I criticise them. That's why they don't like it. And I'm not here to be liked. The IT infrastructure, coming back to it, I did that, but I do that in my podcast deliberately. Check out my previous podcast. I sent out a tip on my shorts. Yeah, you have to click live, you have to click videos. When you go on my YouTube, live, videos and shorts. So I use all three of them now. I told everybody in Lebanon in numerous podcasts I might have to retrieve some of them because of what I'm hearing now with the devices that are have been infiltrated and are causing terrorism across the whole of Lebanon. This control mechanism that was concentrated on the false flag of fake news of the alleged pandemic. These powers who decided, and for the first time in the world, succeeded to shut down everybody in a lock-in. Oh look, I just missed my fucking bus. I didn't even stop as well. You cunt. You see, I call everybody a cunt. Especially bus stops which have a sign on them that they are actually a bus stop and therefore the bus must stop. So coming back to where I am for another 40 minutes, I reckon at least. Stop. Have to jump a cab. Lebanon, dear Lebanon, you need to disconnect. I am disgusted with your leadership on how you allowed this to happen. What the fuck was going on with you lot? What's the matter with you lot? And you got any IT people out there? Any IT pros out there? How could you let this happen? How could you let this happen? You've got no one but yourself to blame. And while you think it's easy for me to say that, I've said it in my podcast, warning everybody about what is to come. And it pains me to hear, and see that it's happening. Because I've said it passionately in my podcast. And I've warned, I've directed it to Lebanon. I've said a lot about the IT sector and how it's impacting us. So you need to turn your businesses offline. Anything that you do which connects you to the internet, if you are saving data online with other companies, you need to stop saving data with other companies. You are giving your private and confidential IT to other companies to store it online for you. Hello? Have you got mug on your face? So the controlling of any IT in the customs and excise of Lebanon should be taken over. Because clearly, the ones that are controlling it now, you want to get rid of the Rad, whatever his name is. What's his name in Bank du Lebanon? Was it that one that just got arrested? The banker, the Rothschilds Bank. Remember, I told you before, anything with the words starting from Bank of, whether it's Bank of America, Bank of this, Bank of that, anything with the word that starts with Bank of is patented. It is patented, yeah, to the Rothschilds. It is a Rothschilds bank. So when you hear Bank of Lebanon or Bank du Liban, it's Bank du Rothschilds, yeah? And let that be a message to all you Zionists out there. You're watching how they threw him to the dogs, how they threw him now in a prison cell. The banker in Lebanon who's been in charge for donkeys, the money launderer, the one who worked solely for the Western world, You need to start hiring secretaries to do your filing and your retrieving information. You need to start putting information into paper format and start to put it and divide it so that you can refer to all the questions that need to be answered in your IT sector, in your, hopefully, service centre, not call centre, as I once said to one of your former communications minister. We've reverted back to call centres now, haven't we? Instead of what they should be, service centres. So we need to go back to basics. That's the message to you in Lebanon, yeah? The cars that are being produced today, the cars, yes, you've just seen it on pages, but you haven't, or maybe you have, and it hasn't been registered. The accidents have been happening in cars. Cars have been locking. Now they are making cars so electronic, so computerized, that an engineer's profession now is no longer what it was then. Now, the most likely problems that are going to happen are going to be problems with your electronics, with your chips, with your reprogramming, with your defragmentations and your patches. Can't believe I missed my bus. They all know me, the bus drivers, they all recognise me. And I think I'm standing here like a plum and they just go past. I've had some experiences with bus drivers, Check out the podcast that I made. Initially I addressed it to Mohammed Hijab, thinking he was genuine at the time then. He wasn't. Mohammed Hijab is an agent hangout, dubbed as such by Lebanese sources, worthy Lebanese sources, Christian Lebanese sources as well. Hadi Nasrallah, his name is. He tweeted it out. I made it clear. I tweeted it out as well. I print screened it and tweeted it out. It's on my timeline. Now we're seeing 5 pillars being elevated. Well, let's see if they get to go to Lebanon. Well, let's see if they're allowed to go to Lebanon after my podcast out to the world, updating them about my presidential case. And I'll reiterate this. I believe in Lebanon that you are being duped by what Iran is doing. I speak from a totally personal capacity, knowing that I don't have a problem with Iran at all in their support for our country. But it is not Yemen. that we should be dancing for and using the Yemeni brothers, are indigenous, are probably one of our most indigenous Arab countries in the world. Yeah. When Iran holds the power to Strait of Hormuz, and I've said this repeatedly. Why? Because it is a bloodless operation. It is a bloodless operation. It means that what I'm saying is not enticing war, is actually an alternative suggestion, a view that I have from a personal capacity, and journalists hate it, especially journalists that are right up Iran's backside, right, the sun is shining out of Iran's arse, because it isn't, because Iran is more than happy to send their fucking fighter jets and their ships full of oil and their fighter jets over them to chaperone those ships to sell their oil, but they won't do it to Palestine, will they? No. Millions are being killed everywhere across the world, and Iran, they're enjoying their Strait of Hormuz to allow access to the Zionists. That's what Iran is doing. Iran are allowing Strait of Hormuz to stay open, and no one's criticising them. Iran doesn't have no black boots in Lebanon. Iran doesn't have no black boots in Syria. Iran doesn't have no black boots in Palestine. So this is a message out to my Lebanese brothers and sisters. I care not what sect you are, yeah, but let's not oversee the fact that Iran, all it's doing is pulling out money that it's pumping out from its floor. Yeah, and we got money. We got money in Lebanon. We got oil and gas. Huge, massive findings. Trillions of cubic meters of oil and gas. Trillions. And even though Israel is pumping its oil out of Palestine right now, yeah, Lebanon was still happy to do a deal with the Zionists, and now the Zionists are pumping oil out of its horizontally. They are pumping oil horizontally out of Lebanon. Even Gibran Bassil, whatever his face is, even him, he used those words. They can go dig horizontally. Well, how do we know it hasn't been done already? Or why did he say it if he didn't mean it? And that is Gibran Bassil, isn't it? The head of the Christian political party in Lebanon. So Iran, just shut the fuck up, or start to use its powers to shut down Strait of Hormuz. I bear witness to 2, 3, 4 mile queues of people in England queuing up to buy petrol. I bear witness. That's how old school I am. I bear witness to seeing queues and queues for miles. People were queuing up to buy petrol and diesel in England. Do you remember? I'm 54 now. So it's happened in my lifetime. Most of the people around my age anyway who see these podcasts. When you shut down Strait of Hormuz, what you do is you stop business. You stop business automatically. You take control of every sector of business in the whole fucking world, in the whole world. When you shut down the oil flow and the gas flow, what you do is you shut down the delivery of food, the delivery of drink, water. You stop those down, you stop down the delivery of weapons. You stop down the delivery of logistics. to anything to do with weapons. So staff, amazing Strait of Hormuz is an amazing, powerful weapon. But there is one more that's even more powerful than even a nuclear weapon, which Iran's already got by now. Yeah, certain sources have gone out and said it, that Iran is already in possession of a nuclear weapon. They have been in possession of one for donkeys now. So let's not kid ourselves. You see, this is where me and you, Iranian-backed journalists or journalists that are backed by the Middle East in Lebanon, Syria or whatever, this is where me and you differ. Yeah, and I'm not here to gang up with teams. I don't want your fucking Fonz jacket. Yeah, I don't need to have any kind of gang to be with or any kind of organization or movement to be with, to speak freely and openly. I'd rather do it freely like I am right now, where no one influences me, no one tells me what to say, no one. And even though I'm right now on bail still and could be sent in and arrested any moment through any twisted manner, which police are now doing so much, it's like a disease that's spreading. The police here in London are absolutely Masonically sectarian. They are recruiting people who are narcissistic. They are recruiting people who are violent. And they're using those violent, narcissistic illnesses as skills. Do you listening? That's what they're using them as. They're using them as skills. In my interview, I was interviewed by a 22-year-old cunt. Turnbull, her name is. Turnbull. Why am I interviewed by a 22-year-old? If I didn't have a medical report written about me by an 18-year-old, why am I interviewed by a 22 fucking year old little slut? I'm just outside St Mary's Axe right now in the city of London, close to where the Commercial Union building blew up. And even Patrick Dorian from Sperrin Law, who speaks with an Irish accent, doesn't know anything about the fucking IRA blowing up a building here in this, where I nearly died. 12 minutes away I was from here, 12 minutes. I came and I delivered to the building, and then I went back and I drove for about 11, 12 minutes, and boom! I wasn't in Beirut, no, I was here. I was here, look. I was here. City of London, look. And my boss, because he went straight to the scene, because my boss was a police special, as well as the owner of my firm. In actual fact, my direct boss was Iranian, who works for the British man, who was a British man and a police special, and so was my boss. My Iranian boss was a police special as well. They went in and done reports on it as it happened. So I'm no stranger to seeing bombs going off. I'm no stranger to seeing bombs being dropped by Israel in Palestine. I've seen it from a Palestinian camp. Can you imagine what it's like for children when they actually just hear an explosion? Sorry, when they just hear the sound of a fighter jet. In a house you'd feel like it's filling your whole body, your whole bones, you feel them vibrating, shuddering. When a bomb goes off and you're very close to it, you'll start to hear the same sound as when we used to. Do you remember we used to have those old televisions and we used to click them to turn them on, and a very, very high pitch sound goes on as the TV is turning. That high frequency pitch rings in your ears continuously. And then when you look at people, as you're looking at people, you just hear nothing wrong with your sound. No, nothing wrong with the sound. You just hear nothing. You hear nothing because you're deafened from the explosion. All you can see is people's lips moving. And you can't understand why. You can't remember what happened or where you were. You are totally shocked. You are in a total shock. And yes, I've seen these bombs go off close to us. Some of them very, very close to us. In Tripoli. I've seen RBJs and B7s or grenade launchers, whatever you want to call them. Seen them right in front of my eyes numerous times, again and again. I've seen your flying bullets, the ones that you can see fly, the ones that are coloured, specific colour, and you can see the bullet fly from one place to another. I've seen them bullets. So, on behalf of expats across the world, I'm giving you my expressions of my feelings of how I feel now about what's happening to Lebanon. Because when they start to kill your own people, and then you're here in this country, in London, here in my country, where I live and have lived since I was 3.5 odd years old. I pay tax. I'm paying tax now. We in England are paying tax now for the money that's bombing our countries, that's bombing our Palestinian brothers and sisters, that's bombing Lebanon, that's bombing Syria, that's bombing Libya, that's bombing even Yemen. Some of our most bravest are the Yemenis. You've been cornered to do this. I urge you, Yemenis, to push your government to get Iran to shut Strait of Hormuz. And this is a message out to you, Ibrahim Moussaoui, Your Excellency, Professor Ibrahim Moussaoui, since you follow me, yeah? It's about time you considered turning your IT off, sir. If only you lot read my podcasts, seen my podcasts. The warnings were there, crystal clear. My tweets are there. I've been warning for several years about it. I've been warning everybody that the moment they take the banking sector, the moment that they start to terrorize the banking sector in Lebanon, that is the moment of danger. And that happened several years ago, over a decade. And it's not something that I like doing when I'm bringing it up right now. It's not something I like doing. I've told everybody where all the servers are. You want to bring down the country? You want to look at the servers. Where are the servers? Yeah? Boy, you know what? I think I've done enough, yeah? 205. I was in charge of rolling out all the backup servers in England. Canary Wharf. On that fucking note, I bid you a good day.